a tutorial for students in Year 10 Timber. We're looking today at a tutorial in Google Sketchup. I'm using Sketchup Pro 2019 to reproduce the image you can see on your screen. Now this is task 1, our utility stool. Now what I've done, if you have a look at my model on the screen, is I've used 5 different colors. This is just to highlight to you that this project is made from only 5 different components in SketchUp. So you'll see that there are 2 pink pieces on my screen. That is the same identical piece. It's used 2 times. There are 4 of the light yellow pieces. It's the same piece used 4 times. So in terms of the production of this in a SketchUp model, it really is quite a simple production because there are only 5 pieces that need to be produced individually, and then it's a matter of assembling them together. Now to get you started, I'm just going to show you the first piece that we're going to produce. The first piece, as you can see on the screen, is going to be basically a rectangular prism, and then we've got a few angles that we need to add in to configure it, and we save that as a component, and that's our first piece, the bottom rail, ready to go. So let's get started with that. I'm going to open a new SketchUp document. So I'll remove these from my screen and start fresh, just like you would if this was on your own computer. So quit SketchUp. Open SketchUp, make sure you're using SketchUp 2019. Okay. Once you open it up, it's going to ask you which template you would like to use. When we use our templates for timber, we always need to use a millimeter template. So you'll see here the first one, simple, is in inches. The next one is architectural in millimeters, architectural in meters. We want to be using one of the ones that has millimeters. So architectural in millimeters is totally fine. So let's click on that to get started. Should then open up a blank SketchUp document. On your screen, you'll see that there is just a person there. You can click on that, press the delete key on your keyboard to start fresh. If your screen doesn't look identical to mine, it may just look like this. Go to the window menu and make sure you have components selected. Then the components window should come up on the right hand side here. I also like to minimize my SketchUp screen so it fits and I can see all aspects of it. Okay. You'll see that this component of the person is still included there. That's not a problem. We can leave that there until we get right to the end. As soon as you've got this done, I want you to just save it. So Command S to go into the Save panel. Find a reasonable location for this to go. So in my Documents folder, I've got a Year 10 Timber folder, and that's where I've got my drawing saved. For today, I'm just going to save it on the desktop, but you need to save it somewhere you're going to be able to find it later. And I'm going to call this Task 1 Utility Stool Year 10 2020. Okay. When it says Save As Type, it's just a SketchUp model. Okay, nothing special. Click Save. And now we're ready to go. So we're going to go camera views to begin with. Standard views, front view. Okay, your screen should now look like this. You should have the blue axes going vertically, the red axes going horizontally, and we're ready to start drawing. If you were looking at a keyboard shortcut, you could press Command 3 to always bring you back to this front view. Okay. Let's get started. We're going to draw the front view of this particular piece. And if you're looking at your drawings, you'll see that this is 360 millimeters long and 42 millimeters high as our starting point. So I'm just going to put in a rectangle. So clicking the arrow here shows me all the different tools I can put in. Selecting rectangle, click and drag enables me to set a rectangle. Down the bottom here on the screen, you'll see there is dimensions, and it's currently 3,840 millimeters as an example. Before clicking to set your rectangle like that, if you click, drag, and leave it with the green box around, you can type in the exact dimensions that you want. So I want mine to be 360 millimeters long, comma, 42 millimeters high, then press enter, and it sets my rectangle exactly to the size that I want. Now, it looks really small on my screen. That's just because it's zoomed out. So if I click this magnifying glass called Zoom Extents, it will zoom that rectangle into my screen. Okay. If you want to check the measurements here, you can use the measuring tape tool, Click from one end to the other, and you'll see that it's 360 millimeters long. Click from top to bottom, you'll see it's 42 millimeters long. The next tool that I'm going to use is the protractor. The protractor is to set the angles, because now that I've got the overall rectangular shape, I want to add in the angles at the end so I can start cutting away at this shape. So you can go Tools, Protractor, okay, and it will bring up a tool like this. I've also got my protractor up here on my menu bar. You can customize toolbar. You can find the protractor and just drag it up there so that you have access to it, because we will be using the protractor quite a lot in this project, so I recommend that you do that. So remember, right click at the top, customize toolbar, get your protractor, drag it to the top. If there's any other tools you'll see that I'm using across my toolbar and you don't have them, it's the same thing that you need to do. You just customize the toolbar, find the tool that I keep using, and drag it up to the top there for you. Okay, once you're done, you click done, and now the protractor tool is ready. Starting in the bottom corner, I'm going to click, click, and as I start to drag up, you'll see there's now a dotted line appearing on my screen. This is my protractor showing me the angle that I've set. Again, down the bottom right hand corner here, it shows me what angle I'm currently setting at. If I want to set it exactly to 75, I just need to type in 75, press enter, and now that dotted line appears on my screen as a guide. Now that's not a line that will appear on a drawing, that is just a guide that I can follow when I'm drawing myself. I'm going to do the same thing from the other side, so click, click, type in 75, press enter. I've now got my guideline there. Now, if I just take you to a three-dimensional sort of look, you'll see that's what I've got. All I've got so far is a rectangle with my two guidelines. So back into front view, we need to start drawing some lines in. So let's now click and drag using the line tool from corner to the point where that 75-degree intersects. Then I can use my select tool to delete the parts of the shape that I no longer need. And you'll see I now have, instead of a rectangle, I now have this trapezium shape. That's the basic overall outline of the shape that we need for this project. So Command 7 will put you in a three-dimensional view. When you're looking in three-dimensional views, it can be very confusing, so the best thing that I can recommend, go to the camera menu at the top, select parallel projection, and it will make it look a lot more simple and neat. Now that we've got this, I'm using the push-pull tool. The push-pull tool enables me to make a 2D object in 3D. You'll see when I've got it selected and I hover over top of any solid shape, I get those dots to appear. That indicates that this shape can be made 3D. So I'm going to click on it. If I just drag it back, you'll see it starts to immediately make it 3D. Again, down at the bottom it says how far back are you trying to set this. Okay, I know exactly how far. I want it to be 42 millimeters thick because that's what my drawing says. Press enter, and now I have this shape that is drawn 42 millimeters tall, 42 millimeters thick, 360 millimeters long with these 75-degree angles. I've now got this basic shape that I need for the bottom rail. Okay. Back into my front view, if you're looking at your screen, what you've produced, and you're looking at the front view on the drawings, you'll see that in the middle there should actually be a rectangle here that has been cut out. So I'm going to show you how to do that. First thing we need to do is find the middle. To do that, use your line tool or the pencil, drag it along the top line, and you'll see that it snaps to this light blue circle. That is called the midpoint. Click and just draw a line to start with, just to show you where that middle is. Now I need to produce a rectangle that is going to be 42 millimeters wide, 21 millimeters deep, directly in this center location. For me to do that, I'm actually going to draw across, so from here across 21 millimeters. I'm going to then draw down 21 millimeters, across 42 millimeters, up 21 millimeters, and if I go back to my 3D view, Command 7, that's what I've got. This line here is no longer needed, so I can delete it. And we're now going to use our push-pull to cut this section away. So click on it, drag it backwards, and you've now cut away that shape. So you should see that we're making really good progress now on this bottom rail. the only thing that we need to do is work on the two ends. So at the left-hand end, there is a cutaway at the front, and on the right-hand end, there's a cutaway at the back. We're going to start on the left-hand side over here. Okay, so back to front view, Command 3. I'm just going to zoom in. So to zoom in, it's just a matter of scrolling up on your mouse. I know that the dimension from this point to where my next line needs to be is 43.48 millimeters. I know that for a fact. And because it's going to be parallel lines, I know that it's also 43.48 at the bottom. So starting at the bottom, I'm going to draw a line 43.48. Again, I'm typing this in my keyboard and pressing enter, so it goes exactly where I want it. And you'll see that that green dot there is the end point where the line has finished. I'm then going to use my protractor tool to draw in another 75-degree line. So I have to find that end point again. Click, click, drag, type in my 75 and then press enter. So I have a 75-degree line. Trace that with my pencil tool. Command 7 to go back into 3D mode. Okay. And you should now have something that looks like this. Lastly, push-pull to make that cutaway. Now I know that that cutaway is 21 millimeters. So type in 21, press enter, and that's now done. You need to do the same on this side over here. Okay, so if we go to our 3D view, you can use the rotate tool. Click and drag until you've rotated appropriately. Use your line tool to find your 43.48 again, 43.48 location. Use your protractor again to recreate your 75-degree angle, your pencil to trace again, the push-pull to remove, and we remove only 21, so type that in and press enter. Command 7 will put it back in isometric 3D view, and this is what you should now have. You can delete your protractor guidelines now, so you use the select tool, which is the black arrow tool on the left. Highlight the line, by clicking on it, it'll turn blue, press the delete key on your keyboard, and they remove. You have now successfully drawn piece number 1, which is the bottom rail for your project. I want you to highlight this. I want you to use the paint bucket tool. In the drop-down menu, I want you to select wood, because we're producing this out of wood. I want you to select the wood floor light and drag it onto your piece of timber. Close the color palette, back to the select tool, right click, make component, and this is you now defining in SketchUp that this piece is finished and you want to make it its own 3D object that can no longer be edited. You only do this at the end. Okay, once you've created the piece, you've colored it, and you've got all the dimensions correct. It'll ask you, what do you want to define it as, or what do you want to name it? I want to call this the bottom rail. You do not need to put a description. You do not need to select any of the details here in alignment. You do not need to select anything in advanced attributes. All you need to do is make sure that you type bottom rail as the definition and press create. And now in your component window, you should see bottom rail has appeared. Now the benefit of you using components like we just have is I can delete it from my screen so that I can start drawing my next piece. But later on when I need it again, I click and I can then place it back in my model. Okay, nice and simple. So component 1 is done, that's the bottom rail. Well done.